This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
Well, welcome to The Last Scare, a home for horror nerds to come together and gush about their favorite feel-good genre.
Nailed it.
We're all back together again. We have Cam here, we have Sabrina, we have Blake, and we have two major properties to talk about today.
Major properties.
Oh my god, you beat me by 1 second.
Damn that internet lag.
Oh, man. We're going to talk about the least exciting, not in a bad way, just because I'm a huge Scream nerd. We're going to start with Last of Us, because Last of Us is over. Season 1 is over. It's done with. And for me, personally, which episodes did we talk about so far?
Like 1 through 7.
1 through 7. So a lot happened, including we got to my favorite part of the game, which was episode 8. We got a little bit of a cameo, I guess you want to call it, from someone pretty special in episode 8. They changed it up a little bit, but I like the changes they made. I'm going to kick it off to Blake first, because you're really familiar with this, and we'll go to Sabrina next. But Blake, tell me your thoughts. How are you feeling about this right now?
Episode 8. This is the David episode, right?
This is.
Yeah. Going into it was also my favorite, or at least I should say most anticipated part of the show, just to see how that they translate such a pivotal moment in the game to the show. And they didn't disappoint, especially, I was like, are they really going to kind of go to certain dark corners that the game touches on with David? And they went beyond those dark corners when it comes to the show, and I don't think they crossed any lines. They just made it very apparent who he is as a person, and the changes, or more so the additions that they gave the show to kind of give more weight to David, was how his not so much followers, but his his colleagues, the people that live in that town with him, know him, and they react to certain things he says, and the fact that he hits that girl at dinner and nobody really looks shocked aside from the mother. Everyone else is just kind of like, that's kind of how he is, and you already get the feeling that he is a known menace to these other people that live with him. And another way you could look at Troy Baker's character wanting to kill Ellie instead of take her in is like, oh, he's not bad, he doesn't want to kill her, he doesn't really see her as another mouth to feed, he just knows who David is, and she would be better off just being left for dead there than being taken in by him. And all of that culminates in a great episode for Ellie as a character, and a moment that she has with Joel in the snow by the end of the episode that I knew would break Sabrina when we finally got to it, because he has found another daughter figure in his life that he so desperately needed. And Joel started killing again after 2 episodes on the sidelines. He got off the bench and he got his hands dirty again. It was I think one of my favorite episodes of the season as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I was a bit worried about how they're going to handle it. I was a bit worried if they were going to make who this character is very apparent, and they did, even more so than in the game, and very direct. And I was just kind of like, oh, yikes. Which made the pivotal scene with Ellie kind of just like letting all the frustration and fear out even more heavy for me. I feel like the fire scene towards the end played out beautifully, especially compared to the game, and translated so well. So well. Sabrina, how'd you feel about all of that?
Well, like, I loved it. It's a great episode, but just like, because I never played the game, so like I don't know anything about the story. Like, I just find out everything like as we watch the episodes, and like I was already getting creepy bad vibes from David, and I was just like, okay, I was like, that's kind of where we're going with it, and like nobody was fucking happier than me when he fucking beat the shit out of him. But like I just also want to talk about Joel when He literally like did everything he could to find out where Ellie was. Like, fucking went from being bedridden for like 2 days straight to like finding the energy to fucking find out where Ellie got taken, and like the entire scene like lives in my head rent free. Literally rent free. But no, it's such a good like I don't think any episode in the entire series was bad. Like every one of them just kept getting better and better. And like for someone that doesn't know this full story, because Blake would not tell me anything. So like I was finding everything out, like I'm like, what's happening? And he's like, well, or I'll be like, oh, I like this character. He's like, just wait. And I'm like,
I would do that too.
Every episode, he'd always have like a weird look. He's like, just wait a second. I'm like, what do you mean? And then like they die or something, and I'm like, what kind of show is this?
He's like, don't get too attached.
That was my reaction too.
Don't like people.
Or like he's like, oh, you like this? Yeah, no, this is gonna like be a like not a thing next. Like everything I love in the finale, he's like, yeah, no. He's like, you don't want the finale. He's like, you don't want season 2 because of what happens. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Whoa, boy.
Yeah, I don't think I want it anymore.
Before the finale and predictions, does Cam know part 2 at all?
No.
Not at all. Not a single thing.
I found out on
So-
accident, so I'm not very happy.
Yeah, just be careful on social media, just because I knew it was a matter of time before Sabrina did find out stuff, so Cam, just stay clean.
Like, I wasn't even trying to look for it. But everybody was talking about it, and they're like, oh, this scene, and I was like, what? And I asked Rick, I was like, what are they talking about? He's like,
I'm like, well, we were going to have this talk someday, but...
I'm like, what do you
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
Oh. No, it was such a great episode, though. Like, I think, Bella Ramsey's acting, like, probably my favorite in the entire show.
I hate it. Just kidding. Block out the haters.
I love Bella. I think she was a perfect fit for the role. I think she really, really did a great job with Ellie. Oh man. Just this entire episode, including the last episode, which was more Joel-centric, obviously. But, like, having this episode and watching her be put in the situation without the person that has been her, like, security, has been her comfort, her safety, was just phenomenal for me. I love seeing Troy Baker. That was great.
And how he goes out, yeah.
Dude, oh my god, that was so sick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know which one he was?
No. I mean, I know who Troy Baker is, but I actually don't know his face.
So he was the one where they were about to kill Ellie, and Ellie took the machete and just like got him in the neck.
He had it coming.
Oh, buddy, did he?
Did indeed have it coming. From a directorial standpoint, a change that they made to that episode, which I really liked, was that Ellie was allowed to have that moment with David where she killed him. Because if you know the game, Joel grabs her right as she's, hacking away at his face, and they have that little moment in the burning building. But in the show, she finishes it, and she has that moment and then goes outside to find Joel. And I'm like, that was better.
Yeah.
I actually like how they did that better. It's like, just give her moment, and then Joel can meet up with her outside.
It makes it more heartbreaking that seeing her fully just, like, let it all out.
Yeah, and then, like, when he tried to, like, hug her, like, and she freaked out, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he grabbed her from behind, but yeah.
When he called her baby girl, I was like, oh.
That was it. I was like, he loves this girl now.
I was like, okay, I would 100% risk it all for these two. Absolutely.
Yeah. Kim,
Yes.
do you have any thoughts on this episode?
I'm always a big fan of actually getting some cannibalism on screen after our expectations for the menu. I always just like to, whenever I get some on-screen cannibalism, I'm always like, yeah, this is I'm gonna savor this, if you will.
It was very subtle hints, but I liked the way they did it.
Mm-hmm. Because they lay out the chunks of meat and they say it's venison, and because of what's just happened, Ellie's like, you can take the deer. You can take half the deer. We'll make this deal. You think, oh yeah, that's venison, and then you go back and the deer is still there, and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, they bring the deer out in front of everyone.
Big one.
See, like now looking back on it, I noticed the hints, but I think at the time I was like, I don't know. I was like, let me just see, and then I
There
saw
was
the
a
deer, and I was
point
like,
where
oh.
Sabrina's like, "Where are they getting the food?" I was like, "Well,
And like, why does everyone seem like they're like
It's local.
Blake made it
Oh.
clear about how they don't
No.
question the food, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, and he's like, oh, just wait, and I was like,
I'm like, they'll tell you for sure. You'll
I was
know
like,
what kind
what
of
do
meat
you?
it is."
I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
She's like, "Is it a
Yeah.
different animal?" I'm like, "Who's to say?"
Who's to say?
I hate that. Every time I ask him anything, he's like, who's to say? And I'm like, stop.
Who's to say?
Just tell me. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Two things I found really fascinating were first seeing the difference, as in like how he had this huge plate of food, and then with everyone else you can hear them scraping against their bowls. Also hearing or seeing the differences between this community and Tommy's community that we saw prior, and seeing how the just everything's so different. The energy between all the characters, the environment. It was such a huge difference, and really set the tone of this place is not the best.
No, it looks cold, literally and metaphorically, just with everyone quiet and eating, as opposed to Tommy's place where everyone knows each other and gets along with each other and feels comfortable where they sleep at night, as opposed to with David, they're just like, we're here to survive. We don't care about this guy.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I never really thought about the two communities, like in the the difference.
It's
but
like
wow.
a coyote pack versus I don't know who coyotes would rival with. I guess mountain lions that are very much better nourished and better when it comes to hunting.
Blake got a little annoyed when I kept saying, but I was like, this reminds me of Terminus from The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, I was like, it's not Terminus.
This episode was great, but it led into a finale, which my one of the biggest things I took away was like, wow, they really did a great job of depicting a video game for a TV show. When he was just going through all these dudes, and it really did feel like the game, and I thought that was really great, which is like the smallest thing up compared to like the overarching part of this episode. Cam, I know you've had to chew on this part of the show and this episode. Do you have any final thoughts on this?
Well, my expectations were all just super wrong. Like, everything I thought was gonna happen at the end of this just didn't happen. I was like, Joel is gonna die, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna die in part 2. I don't know, but yeah, I was very surprised by how dark he went. I don't really know how I feel morally about what he did. I mean, I understand that he is
He did what he had to do. He did what he had to do.
he saved one life over the rest of the world, which I think is like a reverse Jesus.
He did what he had to do.
He did what he had to do to save one person that he loved. I understand why he did it. He did it because his daughter died, and now he's got a new daughter figure, and he's going to do whatever he can to protect her. But basically, he said, fuck you to the world. I mean...
Yeah.
I like the showrunner / game creators acknowledgement of that, and said the whole game is about Joel taking Ellie to save the world. And he said he did that. He saved his world. Because he said that was the easiest decision Joel had to make. Everybody else in the world or one girl. And said that girl meant more to him than anybody out there. So
Yeah.
I mean, even in that episode, at the second it ended, Sabrina's like, do you agree with what Joel did? And I was like, I mean, I did it. Like, I played the game. I hacked those people up.
I shot up a hospital.
Yeah, I was like, the second that doctor stepped towards me with the knife, I was like, okay, now give me the girl.
You know, it is the biggest debate when it comes to Last of Us. And I feel like, and I talked to Cam about this, and when they were doing testing, all the parents were like, yeah, I would have done the same thing. And then a lot of people that didn't have kids were saying that Joel was a monster. And I feel like it's such a layered debate because, like, on one end, you don't even know if this is going to work for sure. And
There is that, yeah.
also, Joel has seen this world and lived in this world for 20 years. And I feel like he's gotten to a point where he feels like he's seen such a raw version of humanity that he doesn't think deserves to be saved. He doesn't think it's worth the trade-off.
You get into it and you say, okay, we have a cure, and just for argument's sake, say it works. It is a cure. After 20 years, how do you know how many people want to go back to the way things were? I mean, this is a small handful of people that have kept their humanity for the most part. Like, our main character hasn't even done that, let alone the rest of the world that's totally fine eating people for the last 15, even 10 years. Even if it's been a day, if you cross
Once you
that
do
line
all that,
once,
it's like so hard to just go back.
yeah, a lot of people can't or don't want to. I think, I don't know, and I think Joel's like, I'm not even gonna think about it.
Well, I don't know if I gotta be honest with you. I don't think it's the more I don't like they don't want to. It's more like they can, because it's like that's their normal now. And it's like, okay, like
It's been their normal for possibly their whole life.
it's like literally putting them back in like normal society, and they're like, they don't know how to function because they have been living off like this government that they have now, and like they're the normal that they have now in this apocalypse, and it's like
They just want to protect the status quo, but
Yeah.
the status is not quo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been killing people and monsters for the past 15 years. Oh, okay, I'll go back to my job as a bank teller.
Right.
It doesn't sound realistic, ironically, but yeah.
Yeah, it brings even more questions like how would they even distribute this cure, and and is it even worth it? Like, would you give up something that is your world, something that is a part of you, something that is so much to you, for people that throughout every single episode we saw did nothing but like spread pain and hurt for the most part? Or would you rather rebuild and learn to work within this world with something that is priceless to you? Which is why, although morally, of course, it was wrong, but Ellie never even made her choice. They didn't tell Ellie that she would die doing this.
Yeah, she's like, oh, Ellie would have wanted this. You didn't ask her.
Right.
So who knows if she did or not.
Which is why I think Marlene and Joel are kind of like on like the same thing in a way, which they took the question and the choice away from Ellie in the first place. But even then, there's so much of a question of, is this worth it? Would it even work? Would it even do any good or betterment for the world to make it worth it? And if Ellie is immune, how do we not know that more people being born are being born with immunity as well? Which is why I agree with Joel.
it's like, or what if and they do that, but like that immunity doesn't work for everybody. Or like they run out of that immunity after a while, then what?
There's so much uncertainty to just give up someone you love for just a chance. Like, you have no idea if it's even going to work. And I do agree with him. It's not worth the risk of that.
If you don't know 100% if it's going to work, it's like, why risk it? Because like, if it doesn't work, then it's like, not only is the plan fucked, but it's like you don't have the person anymore that you care about. So it's like,
They've already sowed the doubt in our minds because I feel like it just sounded super crazy just now. When the boy Henry
and Sam.
when he gets infected, she gives her blood to him, and it doesn't work. And of course, that's not how vaccines work. But there is this this uncertainty of whether this will even work.
Of where she tried to use her blood to cure and it didn't work. Thus.
or if it's like, what if she was only immune to herself? Like, she couldn't help other people, though.
Yeah, who knows if it could even be used for other people.
Yeah, and it brings the question, is this like virus or immunity even virus? Is this vaccine even really worth it at this point? Or is it better if we find and rebuild a world within this and a way to protect our people away from the infected or the clickers or whatever you want to call them? Is that going to be the better way? You know what I mean? Because eventually they have to die out, right? You know what I mean? Eventually you can rebuild, like we see with Tommy, and it's a different world, sure, but like it's 20 years out at this point.
Yeah, they're firmly in that world.
And hey, for the people that want to complain that not enough clickers or infected show up, that's totally a fine world to live in then, because they're not an issue. Aside from 2 episodes where you get, I don't know, hundreds of them that show up, and the bloaters that really make their presence felt, and any other evolutions that may come up down the road.
Yeah, it's not like a Walking Dead situation where you have to see one in every episode. Every episode.
Yeah, and that's when they become cannon fodder. They're in The Walking Dead, they're nothing at a point, whereas The Last of Us, they do damage every single time we've seen them.
Yeah, exactly. I really do think it's a focus on us, like they're focusing on a solution that is so iffy and so, weak, when they could be focusing on other methods that might, be more helpful. Like, why is Ellie immune in the first place? What got her there? And things like that. Instead of just, going straight into just taking her brain out. That's how I felt. I think the ending was wonderful. I really find it interesting with how Joel did end up lying to her to protect her in a way, but I can't say much more than that, Blake, as you know. I'm very excited for season 2 and how they split up season 2, but for Sabrina and Cam, season 1's over. You've been introduced to this world. 2 questions: how do you feel about this world and the story and the characters within it, and what do you expect from season 2?
I feel bad.
It's a lot.
Well, as we've said, it's very sad. However, I'm definitely invested at this point. I still think some of my predictions might stand. Like, even though Marlene is dead, we still don't know anything. Still don't know anything about Sarah's mother, and I guess I don't want to know, but I am really wondering about that because there's nothing still. And I'm just wondering, is she going to be mentioned? Is she going to matter at all? Why don't we know? Does it just not matter because it's about a father and daughter relationship? Probably at this point. I mean, we'll probably hear something. We do get a lot of like flashbacks and backstory throughout the series. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm going to make a prediction for season 2.
Okay.
Oh.
Prediction for season 2, there will be a whole episode dedicated to the story of Sarah's mother.
Oh, wow. They really want to make me cry. That's great. Love that for them. For me.
DLC.
That's great. And, I really do think, as much as I didn't want Marlene to die, as much as I knew she was going to die.
I really thought she was going to kill Joel, and then, it's kind of jumping back and forth in time in that last episode between the very ending and the scenes in the hospital, and when it's jumping back, I'm like, he didn't actually kill Marlene, did he? And then he's like, bah! And I'm like,
they made it a little official.
Yeah.
Like, I just was very surprised by everything that happened in the show, which is great because throughout the whole season, I thought, oh, I know where this is going, and they just like shot all my expectations down.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, I didn't want her to die, but he was right. She was going to keep coming for her. Marlene wasn't the type to like give up on something like that at all. And it really shows Joel's character. It shows how Joel, especially like, for example, in a previous episode when he was like, I believe him, and he killed the last guy. Joel does not leave loose ends because Joel has lived in a world where he's seen loose ends leads to death. And I think that really cemented that. But Sabrina, how are you feeling?
Sad. Honestly, I feel like season 2 is just gonna give me more heartbreak than season 1 did. I mean, part 1 did.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
I can't stand that phrase anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's just gonna become a happy show after this point,
I don't know. I'm gonna live in the fantasy of Joel and Ellie being happy now until part 2. So I got emotional support father and daughter relationship. So that's all. That's all I'm gonna say.
Fair.
I love them, and I'd risk it all for them. That's really it.
Also fair. Before we move on to our next big topic, Blake, I did want to ask you, how do you feel about them splitting part 2 into 2 seasons? Which I think is very, very valid. I think it's a smart move, but how do you feel?
I think that's what the show needs,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it would be and this wouldn't be a spoiler to say, but they take the linear or non-linear approach to the storytelling, to this the way the story unfolds is very out of order. A lot of flashbacks, a lot of just different settings and timelines regarding just how the story unfolds. It's a big story, like it's simple, but there are a lot of layers to it, and I think they would benefit greatly from doing a certain part of the story as season 2, and we follow specific characters, and then we end it at a certain point. And season 3 can be its own thing, especially since they don't even know if they want to make a third game. This would give them a lot of time to just give fans Last of Us content without having to put out another game. And if they did split it up, they could even flesh out a lot of the game, which is an extremely long game. There's still a lot of story that can be told in that time frame, and I think that's what they're going to do, whether they split it up or not. They said some of it's going to be exactly like the game, and some of it's going to be completely new, just like the this first season. So I think splitting up would be smart for numerous reasons that we won't get into, but it's it's almost necessary, I think, to tell the best version of that story. Because telling that story in the game is one thing, doing it as a TV show, I feel like that could be a little different. So they might have to play with it a bit.
So it's going to be more of a Deathly Hallows than a Mockingjay. That's just a personal opinion. Mockingjay was like way too long to be. I mean, it was too. It shouldn't have been 2 movies, but like Deathly Hallows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hollywood got a little like every last chapter has to be a part 2. It has to be split up into 2 parts when they just don't have to. This story would easily benefit from the split, easily.
And I think we agree on where that split is going to be.
Is it when Joel dies?
No.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
I actually think the season is going to start out with Joel being already dead, and we'll get like some flashback.
You want this man in the ground.
I don't.
He's desperate to kill Pedro
Joel.
Pascal.
I love Pedro Pascal.
Wow.
I think Pedro Pascal is sexy. That's an inside joke.
That's why I watched the show. I knew nothing about it. I was like, I love him.
Yeah, I was like, Pedro Pascal's in it. You gonna watch it with me?
I was like, yes.
I'll probably watch Mandalorian season 3 at this point, just because of Pedro Pascal. I've been a little burned by Star Wars stuff, so I'm like a little out of the loop there.
Every episode so far except for one is great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Very excited to see more. I love what they did. I thought it was a brilliant way to adapt the story. But, my loves, it's time to get on to our next topic.
What's your favorite scary movie?
What is your favorite
boy.
scary movie? It is time to talk about Scream 6.
Shall we take it back to the beginning?
Scream, one of my favorite series. What introduced me to horror was Scream. I really do adore this series, especially the first one. I remember the first time I watched Scream 1 to this day.
Me too.
I think it is so brilliant, and it's such a perfect balance of satire while still being within the genre and not going overboard. I think the first one did such a great job. The opening is iconic. One of the best openings for a horror movie of all time. There's so much to say about the series. Oh my god. Sabrina, how do you feel about Scream?
I love it. I think it's, as everyone's been saying, the franchise that keeps on giving. But I know that can be debatable. Sorry, something just fell. I know. I was like, wait, no, I love it. It's definitely like I think it was one of my first introductions to horror, but not my very, very first. But it was definitely one of them that I grew up watching. Kind of like the same as what you said, which I love them. Very it made me love slashers. That's probably what really introduced me to like slasher movies and stuff.
Of course. Cam,
Yes.
Kim, how do you feel about Scream?
I didn't love the Scream series until like last week, if I'm honest. I hadn't seen any Scream movies until probably September of 2022.
It was September.
When we started hanging out. I kind of echo what everyone says. They haven't really done better than the first one. I guess that's what most people say. I thought Scream 2 was my favorite, but in hindsight, after revisiting them this past week, I think I just liked Scream 2 because it's the only one I've seen on the big screen. We got a little re-release last year, and so I got to see that on a big old movie screen, which was very fun, and I would do that for all of the movies. I really did not love Scream 5 when I first watched it, but now that I've rewatched it in the context of Scream 6, I think there's just a bigger story arc going. I think as its own movie, Scream 5 is just really weird. It's a huge transition because, you know, you're getting rid of some of your legacy characters and moving on to your new core 4. They're trying to make that a thing. I don't know if it's really going to be a thing, but
Core 4.
Because they're acting like you know, the core 4 from Scream 1 is a thing, which I don't think it really was.
To be fair, it's well known
Two of them are killers, so no.
No, not even them, because you've got the trio, right? You've got Nev, David, Courtney. I just blanked on all the characters' names, but you've got them, and the fourth one is Randy.
Yes.
But in their friend group, you've also got Rose McGowan and Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich.
So
they all have characters' names, and I know their names.
So to expand on that, there was going to be a core 4 for the original trilogy. It was going to be Sydney and Gail and Dewey and Randy. But Kevin decided to kill Randy off in the second one, and it's well known that he's always regretted that. So to have a core group of survivors for each movie isn't new. It's not a new thing. It's kind of a Scream thing. And I feel like Radio Silence is really learning from what Mr. Kevin has always regretted when it comes to killing Randy. And I understand why people are like, why are these people still surviving? But my theory is that they've been through this before and they've learned from this before and they know the rules so well. And it's more up to their new friend group if they're going to catch up with what's going on or not. And it's more of a horror whodunit or why they're doing it and figuring it out together.
Yeah, who's the killer this time kind of.
Think of it as like a horror Scooby-Doo team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mean the new 5 or the original?
Just across the series, there were the survivors that keep coming back. Think of it as like a Mystery Inc. thing where they're put into a new situation each movie. Mm-hmm. And it's more dangerous, but they're trying to figure it out.
And it ends with an unmasking.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's how you should.
And then I think after a while, it's now because it's always been the same character, for up until this one really is been all the OG characters, legacy characters. But now it's okay, who's doing the killing this time? Has it connect to Sydney? And then everything else up until I would say this one, the last one. But it's basically okay, who's doing it and why? It's always has some connection to Sydney every time, except for this new one, which is crazy.
Yeah, and there's always been this underlying commentary within horror as in a community at the time, or even a bit of society at a time. When it comes to Scream 4. Or even with 5, when it comes to obsessive fandoms, it's much more of a take or a stop and pause look at horror and film and fandom and what's going on within it at a time through the lens of a slasher, is what I've always loved. But Blake, how do you feel
about the franchise as a whole?
Yeah.
I love Scream, and despite what I'm gonna say today, I don't think there's a single bad Scream movie. I think it's a pretty solid franchise, because even the worst in my head isn't a bad movie.
Is it 3?
I have a lot of
Yeah.
no.
It's 6, isn't it?
It's not 3. It's
Knew
6.
it.
Yeah.
Knew it.
Oh, I can't wait to get into that.
It's 6.
Wait, you
Yes.
never told me that. I thought it was always 3.
I know. I saw 6 and I was like, I got gripes with it, but it's probably like third to the bottom or whatever. I let movies linger with me for a while, and I either stick with my opinion or it goes up or down or whatever. But it has gone down the more that I thought about it, because, and I'm not going to touch on each Scream that much, but Scream 1, perfect. Like, there's not really anything new I can say about Scream 1. I think it's a perfect movie. Scream 2, I'm with Cam. That one is the second best, and I think it's better than it has any right to be, because it's essentially the same as the first one, just different killers. And, I mean, I like Randy's death. I think it was a good scene for a good character. And sure, it sucks that we don't have him, but if they want to be really meta, the fan favorite always does die when they come back, and of course he's the one to go. He's the one that knows all the rules. He's not going to stick around that for too much longer, and he's still in Scream 3. He does his little thing, and
that was a great
great cameo.
Yeah, that was perfect.
And yeah, Scream 3 isn't great. It's got the hokey voice changer, but you still have Sydney, Dewey, and Gale in their prime. And I think that's a really big part of Scream. And then we get 4, which was unique, and it brought new life to the franchise as one of the better killers with Jill. No one really saw that coming at the time. And then, like Cam said, Scream 5 was significantly different. And it's in my bottom 2 favorite of the Scream movies because of that. I feel like I'm glad they did a passing of the torch, and they don't feel like they have to rely on Sydney and Gale and Dewey so much. And they had the balls to kill off Dewey, which is like the one that nobody really wanted to see go. And just Ghostface's line, "It's an honor," gives me chills every time that comes up. It played it very safe, but it's still a fun movie. There's not really much I can knock, but Scream 6 is the one we're all here to talk about.
Yep.
And already it was off to a bad start, not paying Nev Campbell what she wanted to come back as Sydney.
And immediately you said filming it right away. You were very
filming it right away. They want, like, with Scream, you don't have to do that. If anything, Scream 4 and 5 taught you can spend 10 to 11 years between sequels and people will still care about Scream. It's like horror movies. It's their tales as old as time. No one's really going to get tired of these movies as long as they're good. That's all you have to worry about. You don't have to.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how long it's been, like how much of a wait you have to wait for. Yeah.
Yeah, no. If I have any opportunity to plug Terrifier 2, that shit took forever, and it was the sequel to a movie nobody heard of, and it made bank for the movie that it was. That's the power of horror,
and
honestly.
It was great.
It's a great community, and it was fantastic. Yes.
I don't know if that's the word I would use, but it's fine.
And I think one of the strongest things about Scream is they're kind of a check-in. They're kind of a time capsule of what's going on at the time. Like, when you revisit Scream 1, it is like a little time capsule for that time. When you revisit Scream 4, it's like a little time capsule for that time. There really are like little check-ins when they're done best. To me,
I think, to Scream 5's point, that was their strongest, the strongest aspect to that movie was the toxic fandom thing.
Yep, exactly.
It was perfect. Like, to make a motive of a killer, that's what it would have been these days. And I think of course it's exaggerated, as it has to be, but it's relevant to every fandom. Like, everyone wants to say who's the worst. Everyone has this little batch of, that very vocal minority, if you will.
What if Scream 5 had actually done elevated horror? Because they mention it, and at the end, Jenna's all like, I still prefer the Babadook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what if they'd actually gone there? What if they'd done a weird, surreal A24 kind of Scream movie? What if they reinvented a little bit
without killing Sydney?
If any Scream property were to do the meta elevated horror thing, it would have been the TV show, which is so crazy for me to say the MTV show would have done elevated horror the best. But the Brandon James backstory, they could have pulled some really serious, like, ground level Scream if they wanted to, but that show came and went.
Yep, that did exist.
What do you think about me watching the show? Do you think I should watch it? Because she thinks I just shouldn't even bother.
I really liked season 1. I was surprised it was as good as it was, and the kills were as gruesome as they were. The killer got spoiled for me for season 2, so I just straight up didn't watch that one. But I heard it's kind of on par with 1, and 3 is abysmal. 3 was a reboot. It didn't even acknowledge the first 2 seasons, and it was just terrible. Also, like, you brought the classic costume back on the worst season. It was kind of a double whammy with there. Also, people really grew on the original Brandon James Ghostface costume. I actually think it kind of fit with that world, because it's completely disconnected to the movies, to their strength. But yeah, 6. 6 is the one we're on.
I will say one last thing about 5 and why I do love 5 so much is because, like...
Love, huh?
What I love about 5 so much is...
No, this is just news to me.
No, what I admire
Why
about...
don't you marry Scream 5?
I'm gonna marry Scream 5, yeah. I should reword it. What I admire about 5 so much is because, like, the toxic fandom thing and how, like, people proved them right within, like, the reaction to 5, the reaction to 6, the way people talk about Scream going forward. I mean, like, yeah, criticism is valid, but also there's a lot of things I've seen online that just kind of, like, really, like, could have been put into what happened in Scream 5, and I get a chuckle out of it. I still think you could have swapped the idea and what 4 was saying and put it into 5 or integrated it within 5 and made it really, really strong. I stand by that. But I do like what they were saying with 5. But we are on 6. We are here. We've been kind of avoiding it.
I'm sorry. I keep just laughing because I just keep having all these, like, tangent thoughts about Ryan Johnson.
Oh my god.
The cameo that almost was.
Yeah. I'm just all my Star Wars thoughts are rushing to me.
I'd be like low-key mad, to be honest. I'd be like, get this man out of here.
Oh man. I will say there's one thing that I want to talk about the good first. To be fair. Scream 6 had such an incredible opening.
Yes.
It had an opening that rivals 2 for me.
Yeah, I'll say that. I draw the line at it rivaling the Drew Barrymore scene, which I heard a lot.
Oh no, absolutely no.
I heard before I saw the movie, and then after I was like, that was a good opening, but let's not get crazy.
No, it's not better. It's not
No.
No, it's not even on par.
Like, there was one thing in it that I was like, that I got really, like, a little mad about, and I was like, if this is how they do it, I was like, that's gonna piss me off. When they first, I'm gonna call him Flash. When Flash literally took off the fucking mask, I was like, so we already know? I was like, come on. I was like, I kind of was like low-key hoping he was gonna die or something, because I was like, I don't want to know the killer right away. I was like, that's... Because I literally was like, my cousin was like, oh, what's happening? And I'm like, I'm sitting there like, what the fuck? Why do we know? And then, you know.
I kind of lost my mind, because I didn't even know he was in this movie.
I forgot he was in it. I heard when he was talking on the phone to, what's her name?
Samara Weaving.
Samara, okay. I never know her first name. I always say it wrong. But, and then I was like, why does that voice sound familiar? And I was like, oh my god, it's Flash. And I was like, wait a minute, because I kept hearing on the phone, I was like, I know that voice. I was like, I know that annoying, not that he had an annoying voice, but I was like, I know that fucking voice. And I was like, it's fucking Flash. It's Flash. And then seconds later you see him, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's him. I'm like, oh yeah, it's him.
Can I take it away here?
Yeah.
I completely disagree, respectfully. I loved it. So going into this, I hope this franchise does something different, because Scream 5...
We'll get back to that.
Scream 5 just made me feel like this series is never going to do anything different. Like, even with these new directors and with this new team, it seems like they're just going to keep making the same movie over and over. So, in the beginning of Scream 6, when you have your first kill and then you have him just unmask himself, I got so excited. I thought, holy shit, this is going to be the reinvention I wanted. I actually, all the possibilities started running through my mind of where this was going.
Okay.
I started thinking we're about to delve into like the psyche of a ghost face, because if we don't have to worry about the whodunit aspect throughout the movie, then we're actually just like delving into his mind. And instead of wondering who he is the whole time, instead of the whole thing being, oh, just who is he? It's like, what motivates a ghost face other than, I hate Sidney Prescott.
Or yeah, something connected to Sydney. Yeah.
And to add on that, I think it would be really interesting to add tension to where like we know at least one of them in the friend group, and we know which one in the friend group to keep an eye out for. And then it could be like, who's he close to? Who's he always butting up with? Who's he partnering up with? What's going on? But knowing and having that tension whenever he's on screen, or even more so when he's off screen, would have been really, really smart. But I do agree. I was really hoping that would stay for a bit. Or another idea I've seen a lot is having like two completely separate ghost faces. Because I believe, my little theory is like, Ghostface is his own entity. Whenever someone's motivated and they put on the mask, they become Ghostface. And they're their own, like, that's a completely separate character.
Said that, but that's really, like, I never really thought about that at all. And then, like, someone else said that, and I was like, yeah. And then I feel like I felt that way, and then until, like, the killers were revealed, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
He's always about the same height.
Yeah.
He's always, like, a bit clumsy.
Yeah, they transform until it's time for the reveal, and they're themselves again.
Sometimes when I see certain killers, it's like when after they're masked, I'm like, how are they like not getting knocked down by like somebody? But I think it was like one of them was like the girl,
Amber.
Amber
like,
killing Dewey.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
bro is literally like a football player. Like, how is he not overpowering her? Or yeah, or even Richie freaking barely did anything too. I was like, come on. But I love my favorite thing also is just when Ghostface flops around. Like, I just love how clumsy he can get. Like, anytime he falls or anything, or gets like thrown somewhere, I'm like, I can't. I'm like, I love this clumsy ass so much. That's my favorite. So seeing him flop around was already like a win in my book. I was like, okay, he's still flopping around. He's not getting good. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, Nev herself said when she was talking to Radio Silence is like Ghostface is his own character. And I find that fascinating, and I kind of love that aspect of it. But no, I agree with Cam when it comes to like, you should have seen my reaction when he pulled out his mask. I was losing my mind.
I was like so happy. I was so happy, and I got a little let down that they didn't follow through with it.
I think it's kind of cool that like you think Samara is going to be the opening call, but the opening call is a Ghostface getting a Ghostface call.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So I love that, and I was really into the second act, especially the ladder scene.
Yeah.
I thought that was super intense. I thought we got some of the goriest and most brutal kills in the series.
Oh, that one got me. Yeah, that one got me.
And then we had the third act. Blake, the floor is yours.
My problems don't start in the third act, unfortunately. But
Fair.
Just regarding the opening scene, because it is good, and I want to talk about the stuff I liked first. It was new, it was unique, and I love the concept of a ghost face getting a ghost face call. But also, I agree. I wish we stuck with two ghost faces, one that we knew and one that was a mystery.
I agree.
I think that easily could have been the plot of this one had the last movie ended just slightly differently regarding Sam. Same with this one, but the end kind of hurt those chances of it happening in the next one, which is a whole different thing I'll talk about. But regarding Ghostface, I agree with him being his own entity, and I think he was my least favorite part about this movie, was Ghostface himself. Not the fact that who Ghostface was hurts it even more, but just talking about Ghostface, not even who's underneath. Ghostface is a character, and he has his own personality even before you know who's under the mask. Like in the first Scream, when Tatum's like, oh, you want to play Mr. Ghostface or whatever? And he does the nod. And when Sydney's trying to start the car and he taps on the window with the knife and jingles the keys, he does stuff like that. And in this movie, he didn't do a single one. And there's so many opportunities, like the ladder thing. I'm sorry, but that scene drove me nuts because as she's climbing it, he's jiggling it, he's going to the side. And the whole time I looked at my friend because I was irritated, and he's like, just pull the ladder. And she's going down. And easily, if you want to stretch that scene out and keep that tension, he can just slowly grab the handles as she's trying to go to the side, and he just does a little wave and pulls it. And she still goes face first and hits the dumpster. You don't have to lose anything. You just improve Ghostface.
Damn it.
You're such an ideas man.
Damn it, Blake. I can't unsee it.
I want to do this for a living.
No, it's like that taunting, yeah.
It would have been scary to know he's won already. And he's just tormenting you. Because he's like, I'm going to kill you in a second, but just try. See how close you can get to the other side, but I'm going to just pull this rug right out from under you. But that took me out because the whole scene, I'm just like, this ain't Ghostface, man. Ghostface is an asshole, and he's not being an asshole.
That's such a good point. I can't. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. Oh my god.
Yeah, they had to maintain the tension in
You're
that scene.
completely changing my perspective of that scene.
Yeah, and that's why I don't hate the movie. It's the missed opportunities that just hurt me. It's not that what they did's bad. It's they could have done something so much better.
You're right. You're right.
And another is Mindy on the train. He stabs her and covers her mouth. That's great. And then he leaves. But he's in a crowded subway when he should have stabbed her, put a hat on her, zipped her coat up, and like pushed her into the corner and looked around and just... Instead, she's laying there screaming, and she does eventually get help by the other killer. But he could have done so much more to just interact with that. I don't know. It was just like she got stabbed by some asshole and he ran off the train.
Yeah, I couldn't quite put my finger on one of the aspects that was missing. For me, I think it was... I was previously saying it was probably because, like, there was this... the reveal mostly and the why and the killers themselves. But, like, I think you're really touching on something that I couldn't put my finger on previously. And it's kind of the playfulness that Ghostface has when it comes to the calls, when it comes to how he does the kills. That is really a really good point.
It just proves that Richie siblings didn't study.
Yeah, I mean, it's the personality of Ghostface.
They didn't study.
Yeah, in this movie, it felt like a masked killer, and that's not Ghostface. Anybody can put a mask on and just go around, unfortunately, as scary as that is. But Ghostface comes from, Maureen Prescott, and just this vengeful person that wants to only hurt someone before ultimately killing them after they've suffered enough. And in this movie, he had so many opportunities to make someone suffer before he kills them. But he was just like, God dang it, if you won't get off this ladder, I'm just going to keep trying.
It is missing some of the dark humor that I Tatum's kill, for example. There's a little bit of dark humor going on there.
Yeah.
That I do feel like...
Or the sitting with Jada Pinkett Smith in the theater. He doesn't kill her right away. He's got the jacket on and he's sitting next to her for a while.
Yeah, there is a bit of playfulness here. Or one kill that I was a bit frustrated with whenever I was thinking about talking about this was the therapist. I felt like that was just like done. You guys stabbed to the face. And like, sure, it's brutal, gory, fun stuff, but like... I feel like that was really short. They could have drawn that out a bit more.
I feel like a lot of the like kills like that were very like quick.
Also, isn't this the first Scream without a chase scene?
No, there were chase scenes. Gale had a chase scene.
Yeah, Gale.
That's right, around the apartment.
Gale had a chase scene. The apartment chase scene, and when they couldn't find, all the knives were taken, and she just take the knives block and just like bonked them on the head. I did like the chase scenes in this more than 5. I will say that they were a bit more intense than 5. That's the one thing that I did like during my second watch. We're like, okay, we got some chase scenes, which is a huge part of Scream. One thing that I think really kind of soiled it for me was the reveal, because I feel like if you're setting up this huge like museum and monument of all the previous ghost faces and all the history and everything building up to it, I feel like it was a bit lackluster that it was just a repeat of two of like, you killed my son, me. Like, I feel like they could have done.
Yeah, and I bought this all for him because he's such a fanboy. I was like, because like I remember when the trailer dropped and like you saw Shrine, I was like, oh wow, that's actually really fucking cool. And, like that's where I was like, okay, so then like it could be, because I know a lot of people are saying, oh, it could be somebody like, that knows all this shit, and but then it being what it was, I was like, so it's just two. I was like, so it's just Mrs. Loomis all over again.
This should have been the first Scream movie where a returning character was the killer.
Yeah.
Instead, it was the siblings and daddy of the last killer.
Not that it has to be Stu.
Okay, at this point, I actually want Stu. I know it's ridiculous, but Matthew Lillard is really fun. And, like, I don't know. At this point, I just want that. I just miss him.
What throws me is they acknowledge the theories in this movie with they're like, oh, that was Stu Macher, and they're like, yeah, if you believe he's dead. They had that throwaway line. And then the director said they killed what's his name with that same TV to prove that you can die by the TV falling on your face. So I feel like they personally said why they're not going to do Stu, even though the movies seem to plant the very obvious return of Stu. But
What I would have done is, in the last one, people always had to be like, oh yeah, Stu was a killer too. They always said Billy. So what I would have done with this one, with this whole monument and this whole like building up back to the first one, was Stu being like vengeful. I don't know how he lived or why he's out. I don't know. But whatever. And it would have been like, I was there too. And this is like what I started. And that's why it was amusing.
Or like to be the taunting, like yeah, me and Billy both did it, but guess who's the only one who's still alive?
yeah.
Well, I think it definitely wouldn't have made sense for him to come back for 6, because if he's going to come back, he's going to come back for Sydney. So,
well, I mean...
So they could still bring him back.
It was Billy's daughter.
Huh?
It's Billy's daughter.
That's why the final scene to this movie destroyed me, because if we had a protagonist Ghostface where Sam is just like, well, that's actually what I thought this movie was gonna be. The killer was hunting down psychopath, kind of Dexter style, not going after innocents.
Oh.
Because Flash, like you said, what about Richie's movie? And Ghostface said, who gives a fuck about movies? Like, I'm like, oh, is this motive gonna have nothing to do with what we've seen before? And it would have been cool to have kind of a vigilante Ghostface versus an actual villain.
That would have been better,
Ghostface.
or honestly, like, not to be like that person, but they did have you believe for a second it was Kirby. Like, I would have been okay if it was Kirby more than what it ended up being.
I mean, but would that have been satisfying?
Like, because when they're like, oh, when the dad was like,
if it was Kirby,
snapped, I was like, wow, okay, that actually fucking was like, okay, that's something different.
I think the ending really throws away that opportunity, because if we had a protagonist Ghostface, to wear the classic Billy Loomis costume, and then you have this new Ghostface with a really unique design, that way you can please both people, and it's someone going after Sam, but they don't know Sam is Ghostface. That's where the conflict comes in. It's like a Freddy versus Jason thing. And then they reveal Stu is the other one. Like, oh, like, I knew your dad, and I don't know, whatever reason you want to come up with him. He's just crazy. Or you can do that. It's Stu. He kind of, I'm pretty sure even Sydney said he just went along with it, and he was just like peer pressure. Because he's already kind of a crazy guy. You can have a Carnage as a Ghostface. Just like, I just like killing people, you know? I died, and I was wherever I've been for the past decades, and now I want blood again.
Or I thought they were going to do the cult of Ghostface theory that's been a long-standing thing with fans.
Sabrina would have loved that.
Give me my cult. Give me my cult. Give me my cult.
Isn't that always the first idea when it comes to horror movie sequels? The cult.
Halloween.
That's what Freddy vs. Jason had a draft of. Cult of Freddy.
Jeepers Reborn, who has never had anything to do with cults in my life.
Or, like, I don't know, like, they could have done, like,
Human Centipede 2?
No. No, they could not. I would have liked to see, well, I had an idea, but it left my brain.
Human Centipede 2 is like a reverse Scream 2.
I'll be right back.
You don't ever say be right back.
Rip.
Did he just say be right back?
He did.
Amateur hour.
But also, Stu did say that.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Maybe Blake is our Stu. I wish they would have leaned more into the true crime thing. Or like the true crime obsessives and like how that's been a huge thing culturally for us recently.
Yeah.
With the Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, and like that's been like there's been this whole debate within like where's the line, and using true crime for entertainment and like all these things they could have gone into. Would have loved that.
I think they could still do that. I mean, the Dahmer show just came out like a few months ago or sometime last year, and so I think they could definitely tackle a true crime thing more so in the next movie.
The glorification of suffering and like brutal murders and the obsessiveness that comes from that.
That said, I don't know when they're going to make Scream 7 because
they're writing it this year.
They want to start shooting in October.
I was just listening to some Radio Silence interviews, and they've got like all these other projects, and they haven't even greenlit
Scream 7's greenlit. They're doing Escape from New York, and like it should be the script for Scream 7 should be done by October.
Okay, I missed a chapter. I'm a little offline.
It's okay.
They actually greenlit it really under the radar. Like the day before it came out, they're like, "Oh yeah, Scream 7's happening. Enjoy Scream 6." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, I guess I hope they do it soon. I'm invested.
I would like it. I would really like it if like I kind of wish this was one of the times. Two things I want. It's going to be a thing I repeat, and it's going to be like my final take on all of this. First, I would love it if we had a situation where there were two separate ghost faces. They aren't connected. They don't have the same motive, going about things at the same time. So you have a ghost face that's like running from or being threatened by a ghost face at the same time as another one. And there's this like entire internal battle. Is one thing. And the second, oh my god, I forgot again.
Stu.
I would love the idea of knowing. Oh no, that's what it was. I would love if a ghost face got away with it. That we didn't know. Like we have the reveal. We think the threat's over, but one of them was involved, and like they got away with it. They weren't a part of the big reveal, and they're a threat in this second. And the like whatever is coming up next.
We've never had a villain come back, so I like that.
I think it'd be really interesting if Sam actually went fully dark. If she has killed, what, like 2 people now?
3.
She's killed people and she enjoys it, but she throws the mask down at the end.
I mean, I enjoy like the struggle between and like Billy kind of in her ear, but like her going fully dark is like what everybody wants. It's like the obvious, like yeah, her dad's Billy, so
I don't like Billy in her ear. I think you can get that same exact point across without the Force Ghost hallucinations of her father. Like in the scene where she like puts her hand to the glass with the knife, my friend was like, "It's calling to her like the lightsaber in Force Awakens." And I'm like, I already wasn't on board until you said that, but thanks. And I think she needs to be pushed. Like as a character, like if this is our new Sydney, of course there'll never be another Sydney, but the one that we're supposed to root for, I would give her the moment without Billy like do it, grab it. I think it would be stronger to make her convince me that she's fighting this. Like, well, he is my dad, and I for some reason have this rage in me that I'm scared of. I don't want to have that, and ultimately it should be a big moment where she is kind of just like I acknowledge that I enjoy this, and I will be a protagonist Ghostface. And by saying that, I just mean we know who the Ghostface is, and it's our main character, which is why that final scene of her putting down the mask, it kills me. I thought she was committed in Scream 5 when she wiped the knife that same way after getting Richie, which was the most badass thing in that whole movie. That would have been really cool, but...
Yeah, they're doing a Rise of Skywalker, aren't they?
Oh, boy.
And I love Skeet Ulrich. I love him. That man is not 20 anymore. And they're doing their hardest to make that face poreless and wrinkleless to make him look
Digital
like he's from the
de-aging
90s.
still does not work
It's not
for
there.
me. It's
It's
just
really
so
not there.
glossy and weird.
Yeah, and he sounds like himself now. He sounds different in the first Scream. I don't know, man.
It's like Kenobi when they have Hayden Christensen back, but they didn't digitally de-age him, and so he's just like old.
Yeah, I know their excuse is he hasn't really aged too well, he hasn't aged at all, which I agree with. But when you make them look exactly like they did in a previous movie, it's harder for us to like be on their side. Like, oh, that looks just like they did back then. Like if this is Billy in like, I don't know, a jacket and something that we've never seen in the first Scream, it'd be a little more believable. Like, oh, okay, this is obviously just in her head, and it's the dad version of Billy, someone we've never seen before. But the fact that they're trying to say this is the same thing that you saw in this exact third act of the first Scream is why it's like, that is a 50-year-old, 20-year-old right there.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect movie, but it's not terrible.
I really don't hate Scream 5 or 6. I
Yeah.
hope I haven't been ragging on it too much, but like,
No.
I am excited for, I mean, maybe not where it's going, but I'm excited to see if it goes somewhere. I'm definitely more interested in these characters than I previously was.
Oh, yeah, they did a good job.
They have actual chemistry in this one.
Yeah, they do.
Compared to the last one.
Yeah, because I was like, I think the only two I really liked was Sam and Tara in the last one, but then I was like, okay, I care about all of them.
Chad and Mindy have always been pretty cool too.
They've been cool, but they didn't like stand out to me.
I love them, and that scares me.
Well, I mean, everyone got stabbed in this movie.
Yeah, I actually forgot about Chad's almost death.
Chad was just a Dewey thing. Chad was a Dewey gag.
That one gets.
This is a Dewey thing. This was a Chad thing.
He got stabbed like.
Bro got everywhere. I was like, there's no way. And then like he comes out, and I was like, no.
That was Jaws the Revenge. I got snatched off the boat, trumped on by a shark, swallowed whole, and dragged underwater for 10 minutes, and then I survived.
I don't agree with it, but I do think they were doing a little jokey joke about how Dewey, we always like in 2 and 3, we think he's dead, but at the very end first one,
fucked up.
but he's like wheeled out at the end, even though we think he's definitely dead.
They did that in Scream 5, though.
He's our new Dewey.
He is, but
it was a bit much. I'll give you that much. But I'm kind of glad that like his death wasn't so camp. Does that make sense? With like 2 Ghostface going at him, then doing a dual wipe. I think it fit. For me, it's not the best way, and it kind of took away because they did that. If Gale would have died, it would have worked better. But for me, it kind of just made me think about how Dewey had this running gag, especially with the first one, where we think he's definitely dead. And at the very last second, they're wheeling him out into an ambulance. And it kind of made me laugh. It just could have been worked better. It could have landed better. I see why.
I feel like they couldn't commit to what they wanted to do with Gale in this movie. Because she was what, like...
just gonna say that.
2 scenes? Yeah, because...
she doesn't fit in this story.
She doesn't fit in the story
I'm just gonna come right out and say it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And she gets stabbed a whole bunch. And then as the camera's kind of wheeling away when she's lying there, I think it's all like ADR, voiceover where they're saying, oh, she's still breathing or her heart's still beating, whatever. Let's get her on a stretcher. There's nothing about that is happening in the scene. It's all just voiceover. And then at the end, they just get a phone call that she's still alive. That I don't want to be too critical because I know I can be overly critical.
It's
but
okay.
I don't think they had a plan for Gale going into this. I think it was maybe a little rushed.
I don't think so either, and I think her death there would have been the perfect death for her. Just her final lines got me. I thought she was dead, and she said, they never got me. Make sure Sydney knows they never got me. That was perfect.
I agree.
Because now it's like, what if she's in Scream 7 or whatever? What's she gonna do? And if she dies, you already faked this out. It's kind of like Glenn with the dumpster thing. We already came to terms with the fact that he died, and then
I didn't. I knew he was still alive, but I get y'all.
I think that Gail dying, especially as we see her revert back to writing books and all of that, I feel like
that she did it again.
she did it again.
Yeah, no. Every time she goes through it, she seems like nice because they all go through it together. And then she ends up being a huge bitch again and writing a book. And I'm like, that's all you care about. I'm like,
She's
so,
a
like,
vulture.
She has no development.
Yeah.
She's a vulture and she deserves to die. And in Scream 7, I came in a little too hot there.
Yeah, like even like her getting punched again, like Sydney, like fucking.
That was great though. That scene. Mwah.
First you want Joel dead, now you want Gail dead. Man.
She never learned anything, so it's like, what's the point of her?
I went back to Scream 1 last week and I realized she was always a vulture.
Yeah.
And if they do actually tackle, like, the sort of toxic nature of true crime in the next one, she would be prime for that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Give her a very good death.
Didn't Ghostface say to her that she would have made a good Ghostface?
Yeah.
Just given everyone else. I was like, that's actually not a terrible, I mean, they've made us think she was the killer in Scream 2, which I thought was funny for a hot second.
I really do think that if she, I would like to see like a huge, like her fight to the end, fight to the death. I think the one character that is off the kill list that is like, has gone through, is too smart for this, is Sydney. I think Sydney is the one that deserves her happy ending, that has like been through this so many times, especially the way we see her react to everything in 5. I feel like she's the one that deserves kind of like this, like, she is the final girl. She survived her horror movie. She had a family. She didn't even have a phone for a while. But Gail, nah.
Like, even we know, like, why Nev wasn't in this, but it's like, even when they were like, they said, like, oh, Sydney's taking her, because they're like, is she coming here? And they're like, no. Like, that would have still even been perfect, even if she didn't decide to be in it. Like, because she deserves that happy ending. Like, it's not, now it's like, this movie proved, it's like, it's not, it doesn't have to constantly be about her.
She only showed up in 5 because Dewey died.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was a good reason. For this one, she's like, I am out. I am staying
taking
where
my
I am.
kids.
Ghostface is in New York. Why am I going to come to you?
She's not going to come back for Gail either. Let's be honest.
Heck
No,
yeah.
she wouldn't. She would not. Even in Scream 5, she was like, I'm sorry, Gail. I love Dewey too. Like, that's why she was there.
I think Sydney is the one person that has really, her character arc feels complete to me. I feel like that she deserves a good ending. Gail, have a true crime based centric motive. And having Gail die within that and kind of have the consequences finally catch up to her would be a really great way.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think that'd be a really great way. I think that's a great way to send her off.
You want to know how far I've come with this franchise?
Mm-hmm.
When I see Courtney Cox, I don't think of Friends anymore.
Wow, that's huge.
That is huge.
That's major.
Oh, my cousin, oh my god, my cousin's such a huge Friends fan that she was like crying in the theater because she thought Gail died. I was like, no, I was like, just wait. I was like, because I was like, they're probably not gonna kill her off. So I was
I was crying when I heard she lived.
I will say Monica has always been my least favorite character too. Ross being a close second. I just can't stand the Gellers.
I don't blame you. I let out a huge oh no when Gail died, but then I was bummed when she lived.
Yeah, I was like, that was perfect.
I was like, oh, okay, she's living.
As much as I want there to be emotional stakes in a movie and like kill your main characters, like I was disappointed that they did not kill any main characters with this one. I think they want their core 4 to just be like true icons.
They really do, don't they?
They do.
I just don't think. I mean, Scream.
I did not appreciate Dewey's death, and I still don't.
Dewey's death could have been done better, and I really don't think. Like I said, I kind of see Scream at this point as like a Scooby-Doo team. A main returning character death is going to be rare, and I think that it might be an adjustment, but I feel like whenever it does happen, it adds to it.
Do they all wear the same clothes in every episode?
Have you noticed that almost every single Ghostface is war plaid, or is it just me?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Oh. Interesting. I actually did not notice that at all.
You can't do the bit now.
I forgot that we are going to do the bit. I just got really excited about my theory.
So let's try and reenact the bit. Okay,
How
so
can we
right
reenact this bit?
Right after we saw Scream 6, we had this conversation because that's just a thing online. It's like, oh, they always wear plaid, but I didn't know that, and she had seen that, so she was like, reenact, I guess. So we're sitting in the car in the theater after the movie.
Can you guess what connects all of the ghost face? Like, every single ghost face wears a certain piece of clothing.
Huh. Is it pants? Is it
No.
Is it like, do they all wear the same kind of shoes?
Everyone wears shoes.
Do they wear a hat at some point?
No.
Is it shoulder pads?
That would just be Gale.
That doesn't sound right. It was so much funnier in the moment. I don't remember why. That doesn't make any sense.
You were like, is it shoulder pads? And I was
I don't even know why I said that.
no, then it would just be Gale the entire time.
It was so funny in the moment.
We need to start voice recording our reactions to movies, because what we do is we'll see a movie and then we'll sit in the car and we'll talk about it, and then we'll have great dialogue, and then we'll be like, man, that was really great, we should voice record our reactions to movies, and then we don't.
And then we get on the podcast and we're like, what was that thing we said that was so good?
We're actually hilarious.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. Sometimes me and Blake are like that too.
They're like, yeah, sure, totally.
That's why I love watching movies with him, because, like, I think the last time I had, like, a reaction to a video was, like, Infinity Pool. We were watching it, and I just kept looking at him, and I was like...
She looked at me every 5 minutes in that movie,
and
I was like, oh, I'm hating it too.
Like, are we watching the same thing, or am I just, like, tripping really bad?
Yes.
Yes, to both.
Because I was like...
Let me just say, we walked in, like, 2 minutes late to that movie, to the point where it was like right when Alexander Skarsgård sat down at the table with his wife, and I hate that. That's a huge pet peeve, like, to walk in on a movie, and for the next like 20 minutes I was like, that's bothering me. I want to know if we missed something important, and then like halfway through the movie I was like, I no longer care.
If I really care about a movie, I can't do that at all.
We walked out of 65.
We walked out of 65 because we were having another terrible encounter with the youth of today.
That is actually irritating.
They were like talking, and
they sat right next to us on purpose.
They were sitting behind us and they were talking a bunch, and then they all just ran and like very aggressively sat next to Jayla.
And got upset with me that I moved my phone, not even like in a rude way, just getting it out of the way.
And then they kept talking, and like I've had to like call these people out. It's not the same people every time, but like I'll call these kids out. I'll be like, hey, please stop talking, or like, shut up. Like, I've said, can y'all shut up, please? Like, during Wakanda Forever, some kids were yelling at the screen, and they were, like, 3 rows back, and I turned around and I said, can y'all shut up, please? Because, like, they're ruining my night. Because, like, if you've been looking forward to a movie for months...
And if you don't have, like, Movie Pass, Regal Unlimited or anything, you paid $20 to be there that day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, guys, if you want to talk during a movie, watch at somebody's house. Don't go to the theater where you're sharing that space with the public.
And we have the AMC subscription, so like, yeah, we could afford to walk out, but it's still really frustrating because I still want to see 65.
Yeah,
but we
and
got
like
30 minutes in.
We have jobs, we work.
I will only talk during. I will only say stuff during a movie if it's not crowded and like there's a couple of people like not like that near us or anything like. But I remember if it's like a movie that's like packed, like I took my dad to see the Batman, and like he kept asking me questions, and I was like, Dad, I was like, just wait. He kept trying to talk to me, and I was like, and I loved that, but I was like, Dad, I was like, just wait, because I was like, I don't want anyone to be like, shut up, and because like I was trying to fucking watch the movie too, and I was like, Dad, please just watch the movie and ask questions later. We're
seeing John Wick tomorrow, and I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. Nervous that I'm going to have another bad time because of kids.
Yeah, because
I'm excited for the movie. I'm so excited. I think the movie's going to be amazing, but I'm nervous that we're just going to have a bad time.
Yeah, we check like the seats that are available. And the thing is with these kids, they don't buy tickets for these movies. They just movie hop and just run around. They just run around in and out of theaters. They don't even watch the movies. They're just running around. What's the point? Go do something. I don't know.
And Snapchatting the whole time, just like...
Oh my god, yeah.
I got that from Megan. I went with my friend on a day. We're like, let's just go see Megan. It was just us, like 2 people in front, and then a group of kids behind us in the back. Obviously, making those stupid jokes after every like serious moment in the movie. They have to like say something when it's quiet, and doing that running out like all loud and abruptly kind of thing. Just I don't know, from theater to theater, and it went on the whole movie.
It didn't used to be like this, right? It hasn't always been like this. At least like a new thing, right? I think it's like a new thing. I think it's like a TikTok.
No, the last time I had a bad experience with like a kid like that was like Infinity War. But I saw it like another time. But like this one kid was like freaking out, and I was just like, it was the opening scene with Loki, and I was just like, bro, like
not that scene.
Jesus.
Holy shit, that's an amazing opening.
At least when it comes to Marvel movies.
Yeah, the kid was like yelling when he was getting choked, and I was like, bro, I was like, oh my god, I was like, you have to be quiet.
Yeah, I trust fans on like opening night, like everyone's collectively
it was like
excited.
a really young kid. I was like, really? I was like, where's this kid's parents?
Whenever Thor returned to Earth during Infinity War, we were at one of these like eat in the theater places, and my waitress was standing right in front of me when he returned, and everyone around me was like, "What?" and freaking out, and this woman was standing right in front of me.
I'm not super into the studio movie grill thing. It doesn't work for me.
Alamo works
it's
because they're like little ninjas.
It's just too busy.
They just kind of like duck around.
Yeah, I have one by me. That's where me and Sabrina saw Black Adam. And they like crouch and like go to the side like, hey, you need something, and whisper, and I'm like, yes, this is a good scene, thank you, I'll have a burger.
Alamo Drafthouse really respects the experience.
Oh my god, I love theaters like that.
Because at the beginning, they have a whole notice at the beginning of all their showings, like, do not talk on your phone, do not text, we will remove you.
And they do.
They will actually... They won't do that at our theater. They don't do that at our theater. Like they'll send a cop in, but the cop will have to like they'll have to like catch them in action or something. And if the cop is standing right there, they're just gonna be nice, good citizens. And
they're not gonna stand there for 10 minutes. They're gonna be like, hey, they're not talking, and leave.
No, so like, I don't know. Tomorrow I might have to be a Karen again, but
be a Karen.
Oh yeah.
Be a Karen, because kids are annoying. Be a Karen, kids are annoying.
Yeah, they'll actually, like, your point with Thor and yours with Loki, Sabrina, for No Way Home, a lot of people got loud when Matt Murdock, when he put his, stick down, and everyone shrieked. You couldn't hear him at all for, like, that whole scene, and my friend, who's, like, the biggest Daredevil fan, he's like, I can't hear a single thing he's saying. He's gonna be off the screen in 40 seconds. And he's like, I can't hear him. And we still never heard what he said in that scene.
I'm so guilty.
I was with my family for that one, and none of them had watched Daredevil. And I... But Daredevil's, like, my favorite. And so when I saw just, like, the cane or, like, his glass, I was like, ow! I was, like, shitting myself.
I made the most inhuman noise.
Not believe that he was going to be in it. And I, like, was punching his fucking arm. I was like, I fucking told you!
That's also
literally, like, the most, like, I fucking told you so moment ever. I was like... I knew he was gonna be in it. I was like, he's gonna fucking put that cane down. And fucking second I saw, I was like, I fucking told you.
Yeah.
I
was like, don't ever doubt me.
The most inhuman noise, but I think we've wrapped.
When you saw Andrew, probably when you saw Andrew too.
I think we got a lot of juice today.
I mean, I'll say one more positive thing. I liked that it was in a new location.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was probably my like.
I just realized
top favorite thing.
It had only been in Woodsboro for three movies.
Yeah, I know. It took me a while to realize. I'm like, man, we've been in. It's been half the series that we've spent in Woodsboro, but it feels so much longer. But I think a part of us all hope that Stu will be right back.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, when you said I'll be right back, you were like, oh my god, he pulled a Stu.
I heard you when I put my earbuds down. I was like, fuck, we're talking about Scream and I did that? Yeah, I was so mad at myself. I was like, oh my god, I actually did it. I felt like Huey.